I removed some of my modulation patch cables just to clean things up, and we'll build that patch back up from scratch. And in this movie, we're going to look at the first section on the reactive shaper. Abstract data refers to this first section as a vertical shaper. Now in general, wave shapers are just interesting bits of circuitry that mangle waveforms in interesting ways to create new harmonics. Abstract data refers to stage 1 as a vertical shaper and says the effect is similar to pulse width modulation, and indeed it does tend to boost even harmonics. I'll go ahead and increase the amount here on the sine wave, turn on the drone so you can hear it, and also see its spectrograph display. As I increase it, you'll see it's going to take a center section of the sine wave, stretch it, and offset it. So these little spikes will appear going downwards. What that basically is that middle section of the sine wave boosted in volume by almost 2 times, but offset downward in voltage so it still fits into the maximum peak-to-peak you would expect for a Eurorack audio signal. At this intermediate setting, it's kind of close to a sawtooth, but it has some dips, particularly there in the third harmonic, and you can vary that harmonic mix. A little bit thinner, like a thinner pulse, something a bit more full-throated. Now, in addition to that initial offset, you can also modulate it. For example, I have my second envelope set up to trigger from my keyboard. I'll turn off the drone, take this output from this envelope, plug it into stage 1 CVN, give myself a little bit of decay time here, set up a simple arpeggio, and start increasing the stage 1 control voltage amount, the depth of that envelope going to the amount of wave shaping. It's almost like a nice little filtered effect, but I can add a filter on top of that. I have a fairly slow decay here, so I have a long sound. I can also make that a very short pluck sort of sound. This little fizzy attack there. And sounds like that are nice to layer with other oscillators because they add a more interesting attack. Oop, got out of tune here. This is just a sawtooth on its own. This is our little fizzy pluck. Here's the two mixed together with some envelope filter. Since abstract data describes this as a pulse width modulation type of sound, in addition to an envelope, I could instead try something like an LFO. So again, I'm going to turn this amount all the way down, plug in something like our triangle wave here, hold a note, and start increasing the depth. This would work better if I gave it an initial amount. So it's always in wave shaping. Then just gave it a shallow modulation, maybe a little faster. A little bit more like a pulse width type of constant movement. And again, we can layer that with another oscillator. Add some more motion to a sound. Much fatter sound there. Sort of a chorusing effect. I'll go back to just the reactive shaper. Now I've chosen the simplest waveform here, a sine wave, but of course it works with other waveforms. I'll change to a triangle waveform, sustained note, static change to the sound. You can see the change in the harmonics. In this case, the second harmonic is suppressed, then gets strong again. You see how different the waveform looks. And we'll pull this back down. And I can add some LFO to that. Most wave shapers have very little effect on square waves. They're very level dependent. They change the waveform at a certain level, but square waves are only two levels, high and low. I'm going to change my sync and my output selections on my disting here. Go to a square wave, and you can see there's the normal square output. And there's no real change as I increase the amount of modulation. It's already at its highest level. There's no breakpoint to do interesting things. However, it is interesting with our classic sawtooth wave. There's our sawtooth. I'll increase my initial amount. Almost get a double saw now, almost a doubled harmonic. And you see in the spectrograph display the difference with this very strong second harmonic and their traditional fundamental. And again, this is very good to modulate as well. Again, getting into that chorus territory you might hear with pulse width modulation. Or we can envelope it. Add a little filter. Get a nice plucked sound, and again layer in our normal oscillator. Short pluck, or longer effect. So that's the first stage. Actually, kind of a mellow effect, nice for adding that pulse width mod type of chorusing. The other two stages are much more radical, and that's what we'll look at in the next couple of movies.